But did you know that there are even more controversial changes to Fire Emblem that you have never heard of?
Well, gee, if they were so controversial as you say, we probably would have heard no end of it.
Well, today I'm here to help you learn a little something with Fire Emblem's Top 10 Controversies. Number 10. Name changes.
Because changing a name is very controversial, which is why it happens in literally every other video game and anime in the entire world.
Now, this little tidbit is easily the least controversial subject on the list, but that's why it's number 10. It's still very interesting, though, to say the least. As the Fire Emblem games have started to be ported internationally over the past decade, many changes were made to the games, and in particular, people's names. Many of the names in Fire Emblem continuity are references to mythological beings, often which tie into a character's persona, such as Nana from Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War being named after the Norse goddess, and weapons such as the Ragnarok and Guy Bulg being consistent throughout the series. So while localizing them to another country, it's difficult trying to maintain this while not having some ludicrous name that no one in a particular region would understand. One of the...
Not really. Does anybody know what a Durandal is? I had no idea that it was Roland's sword in the Song of Fire and Ice. At least I think that's what it's called. See? I didn't even know what it was either, and I don't think the people in Japan knew either, because it's a French legend or something.
Characters from Path of Radiance named Mist actually had to be renamed Alja, of all things, in the German localization, despite her name being one of a mythological Valkyrie. But
the most unknown mythological Valkyrie ever.
Why was it changed? Because Mist in German is a curse word. That means shit. Literally, shit. So
you are not entirely incorrect here. The word mist does in fact mean manure in German. I have verified this with my German friends. Now, you might remember that in Mario Party, Wario has the line, "So ein Mist!" And it's used there, and it's kept in just about every other version of Mario Party I can think of, except Japan, the Japanese version, where he originally said, "Oh my god." It's more of an expletive in... You know, just trying to say, oh, crap, you know, like that. So, technically not a swear word, but, you know, you don't want your character to be named crap. Because, you know, it's like the character Kagome from Inuyasha. In the Spanish translations, her name is changed too, because Kagome means I crap on myself in Spanish. Yeah. So... not quite as controversial as I think this person is making it out to be.
Take that as you will. Famously, Marth, the iconic swordsman from that one Fire Emblem game that you may have played, Super Smash Bros. Melee, was originally called Prince Mars when he made his first appearance internationally in Fire Emblem the anime. This anime's dub was so bad that it's good, and thus really didn't do much to help with Marth's appearance.
So what, are you saying the name was changed because of that anime? I think Marth just sounds cooler. And more feminine, come to think of it. Yeah, they should have kept Mars, I guess.
Number 9. Cut content from Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem. Now,
I beg your pardon? Fire Emblem 3 is a Super Famicom game.
Now here is where we get into some actual controversy for the series. The first one, to be exact, Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem is an oddity of a game, being a remake and a sequel at the same time.
What, like Super Mario All-Stars?
Coming out in 1994, it was a retelling of the original Fire Emblem from the Famicom, but with some things missing. 5 entire chapters, along with the 6 characters that were contained within them, were wiped away from the first game, titled Book 1. If your favorite character was within one of these chapters, they were gone forever.
Oh, really? You know, the original chapter where Merrick joins you was cut from FE3, but Merrick is still in FE3, both books. Yeah. The chapters were cut to trim fat, if anything else. They were the most boring chapters ever. The characters who were actually cut did not appear in the cut chapters, to my knowledge anyways. Riff, Roger, and Beck.
All of this was because the Super Famicom was a puny little device in terms of storage. Putting books 1 and 2 together was an impossibility.
And yet, They did it by trimming the fat just a little bit.
This console. So, as Book 2 was the one with the brand new content, Book 1 received the cut. While this didn't necessarily trample on the original experience, it still left many fans of the original game hurt.
Which is why FE3 is the best-selling Fire Emblem of all time in Japan.
7. Fire Emblem GBA. Ah, the original Fire Emblem. Or, the original for the world outside of Japan. Released on the Game Boy Advance in 2003, many praise this game for its story and gameplay, but there's one significant portion of the game that was one of the few times where the series actually held your hand. Lynn's story.
Okay, how is this controversial? I can see that being controversial in Japan because they had to relearn Fire Emblem and have their hand be held on the handheld system. Jeez. Wow, I'm reaching. But the point is, just having this tutorial isn't really controversial as it is annoying.
Lynn's story was the beginning of Fire Emblem for many, but in all actuality, it was a bona fide tutorial that took up a portion of the game. It was all around easier than the rest of the game, requiring little strategy to complete. Even the series' iconic permadeath feature wasn't an issue, as any character who fell in battle in Lynn's story would still come back for the rest of the game.
They also lost any stats they had and levels they had gained, but we don't want to punish them too hard.
Worst of all, there was no ability to skip it and continue on with the main story. Or was there? As a prequel to the Japanese-only Fire Emblem The Binding Blade, there were some features that we were just never given. One of these was the ability to connect your save data from The Binding Blade to the new Fire Emblem, which allowed for something much needed. The ability to skip Lynn's dreadfully awful story. It was the classic old-school mentality of Nintendo all over again, thinking that a Western audience was unprepared for the difficulty that the Fire Emblem series entailed. Americans are dumb.
I beg your pardon, are you saying that Nintendo thinks we're dumb because they didn't let us connect to a game that wasn't even released in our country? Yeah.
This feature even included an epilogue that concluded the story fully and connected it to the Binding Blade, which was included in the North American...
Wait a minute, something ain't quite right with this footage. Are you kidding me? You actually drained out the boss's weapon durability? That is sick. I know people did that when they wanted some easy level ups, but that's... no.
Internationally, normal, hard, and lunatic were changed into easy, normal, hard. This artificially increased the game's difficulty for many.
Yeah, a simple name change artificially inflates the difficulty. Wow. This isn't so much controversial as it is a point of contention with a lot of people. So... maybe that is controversial, I don't know.
As most would avoid the easy mode altogether, as, well, easy is always easy. Especially in a strategy game. Easy mode's for babies. Or, people that just want to play a game for the story. Now, while Radiant Dawn was hard to beat just like any other Fire Emblem game, this changed people's opinions about it, with many, many review scores and the poor sales reflecting this, stating the game is far too difficult for players, when really, they were playing on hard mode, which is for experts. One single translation error changed an entire game.
Yeah, we all hate Radiant Dawn because it's difficult and not because of all the other problems you may or may not have had with it.
Possibly ruining its reputation in the long run. Number 5. Gay conversion therapy.
Okay, this one is actually controversial. I know what he's going to talk about, and it actually did raise hell on the internet. So, yeah, this is... The fate stuff is really where the real controversy is here.
At this point, Corrin apparently wanting to help Soleil, who implies that she can't concentrate on being a badass warrior when there's cute women around.
Okay, this is completely misrepresenting the original conversation. It is Soleil who states that she has a problem with being around cute girls on the battlefield because she gets distracted by their knockers. Or, whatever. The point is that it's Soleil having the problem, and when you're in the middle of a war, you definitely don't want any distractions. including arousal. So it is she who asks male Corrin for help. By the way, you have female Corrin pictured here, even though this conversation, I believe, is exclusive to male Corrin.
Number 4. Changes with Fire Emblem The Binding Blade.
I beg your pardon? The Binding Blade didn't even come out in the West at all. What changes do you mean?
Once Fire Emblem entered the Game Boy Advanced era, the entire series was radically
Hold on, where did you get this box art? It should be Japanese, shouldn't it?
slowed down from its previous entry, 3CS 776. Early adopters of the new system enjoyed the next entry, Fire Emblem The Binding Blade, for its simplistic yet colorful story, and found the previous games to be nothing in comparison. Binding Blade's gameplay...
Wait, what? Where are you getting this from? Who picks up Binding Blade and then suddenly thinks Fire Emblem 4 was nothing? That's really strange. Japan loved Fire Emblem 6, to my knowledge, because it so resembled the classic Marth games. Let's move on.
Play was easy, to say the least, and required...
No, Fire Emblem 6 was not easy.
less thought than any map from 3CS 776. This shattered the Fire Emblem community into two sides. One that was hooked on the new direction the series was taking, and another who wished to dial back the clock to the era when Shozo Kaga, the series creator, was in charge.
Yeah, how many Japanese message boards did you go on? How many Western fans of Fire Emblem were there before Smash came out?
While Binding Blade's changes to gameplay and other departments helped make the series immensely more enjoyable to new audiences, since sales were on a drastic decline from their last entry, somewhere along the way it had lost its heart and soul of what it meant to be a Fire Emblem game, which caused this splitting of this community. After the initial negative reception of Binding Blade, it took
Yeah, that's why it sold so well.
a long while for the series to earn back the trust of its devoted fan base, but they eventually did earn that trust back. For a time.
Okay, Fire Emblem 7 is the one with the Force tutorial, and Fire Emblem 8 is super easy mode, yet Fire Emblem 6 is the one that's causing the controversy here?
Number 2. Fire Emblem New Mystery of the Emblem versus Awakening. Ever heard of Fire Emblem New Mystery of the Emblem? I doubt you have, unless you're a more hardcore fan of the series. Coming out just a few years before Fire Emblem Awakening, many forgot this title even existed.
Probably because it never came out in the West.
Let alone its importance to the Fire Emblem series in general. Most consider Awakening to have many innovations for the series, but in actuality a lot of that is owed to Fire Emblem New Mystery of the Emblem. Awakening didn't introduce casual mode, New Mystery did. So a lot of the controversy around Awakening should be towards this one.
Well, it kind of is, because the Western fan base really doesn't like Chris, or the general design of New Mystery of the Emblem.
Mystery also introduced the idea of a playable and customizable avatar for the player, so they could be a part of the story. But more importantly, this entry is actually the hidden savior of the franchise.
What?
If New Mystery hadn't sold well, it may have been possible that the franchise would have been dead right then and there.
That's what the developers said about Awakening.
It didn't sell incredibly well, only a measly 270,000 copies, but it was enough for Nintendo to go through with Fire Emblem Awakening. So without Fire Emblem New Mystery of the Emblem, the series wouldn't...
Wait a minute. Mangs? There's no character named... You stole this footage from Mangs, didn't you? Oh man, somebody... I can even verify this by checking the name of his custom weapon there. So... You know, I didn't actually do that, but if you want to go to Mangs' channel and find that out for yourself, go right ahead. Borrowed footage. The case of laziness, if there ever was one.
So what do you think of all these controversies? Which one...
I think 80% of these aren't actually controversies at all, and you're just blowing things up.
pushes you in the wrong way the most? And would you like to learn more about the Fire Emblem franchise, like its creation and history? If so, then check out Chronicles of Fire Emblem, a series that I'm doing the voiceover for right here over on the Chronicles channel.
Oh, that's gonna be good.
And until next time, you stay awesome, and never stop using that noggin.
How about you start using yours? I'm sorry, that was low-hanging fruit. I apologize.